Go here. Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Ollie. On behalf of the SCA, of which we haven't got any of the sponsors over here. We should probably ask some of the sponsors to come running over here very shortly. This event was put together originally in 2019. I did 2 events, one in Manchester and one in London, and it was talking about my experience in competing. And when I was getting into comp, I went to a handful of events, quite low-key, but I found it really, really interesting that people who had competed were sharing their knowledge, demystifying certain things, and Cam and I spoke at the Bristol Championships finals earlier this year, and we talked about sort of resurrecting this as an idea with the support of the sponsors and trying to make it a bigger and better thing. So instead of just doing 2 events, we've grown this to 3, and there's some talks about doing some stuff next year. I'm going to try and talk to everyone, but this is difficult. Oh, this is not where we put water. Right. So we've spilled 2 waters. We've spilled 2 waters. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's fine. It's fine. It's water. It's fine. So we're going to do things in reverse. We're going to introduce a few people. We're going to talk about some stuff, and towards the end of the presentation, we're going to introduce the sponsors, because I've done it in the wrong order, and we've not got the sponsors over here, so we're going to do that last. So everyone here is just going to introduce themselves. It's blind date rules. If you haven't familiar with blind date, you're going to get a bit of an idea of who everybody is, what they've done, what they're doing currently, and maybe a little bit of a background in what they've done in coffee competition. Over to you, Dan.
Hello. I'm Dan. I own a restaurant in South Bristol now, but previously worked for Origin in Kelowna, looking after training and then wholesale. And competition-wise, I've done the UK BCs 5 times, and I've done cup tasting a couple of times, but I don't talk about that. That's it.
Hi, I'm Matt.
Matthew North.
Yeah, hi. 5'7", 12 stone, like cycling, hate fish, looking for love and maybe some excitement on the side at weekends. I've done it I think in competition. I've competed, I judge currently. I have been involved in the SCA roundabout since like 2007 and spent a couple of years running it. And as for coffee, yeah, I'm old. I've been doing it for a long time. 20 years, done most things, and most recently doing green coffee for raw material.
Hello, my name is Camilla. I'm sales manager for Victoria Arduino, and I'm also community coordinator for SCA UK. And I've been involved in competitions really via companies I worked for as a sponsor since 2011. And so we've been involved in many ways, and I got to know most of the people here on the panel and a lot of people in the room through competitions, and really excited to be bringing this little tour, which we've conjured up, and really it's important for us to come and talk to you, to answer the questions and demystify what competition's all about. And I hope to answer a lot of your questions, or all of us to answer a lot of your questions here today.
Hi, I'm Josh Tarlow. I've been in coffee 20 years as well, I think, which is weird. I've done barista, cup tasters, brewers. I don't think coffee and spirits. I have been a roaster, green buyer, and barista as well. And then, but currently have a coffee leaf company called Headstand, and also work with Oatly. And that's.
Thank you. Yeah, and you've done pretty well at various...
Come on.
Right. Some of those competitions you've won and gone to Worlds, right?
Yeah, brewers and barista.
Yeah, you forgot to mention that somehow. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Joe. I'm the head of education for Clifton Coffee. I've been making coffee for about 10 years. I've been studying coffee for about 6 or 7. 2 very different things, really. I've done UK Latte Art 3 times, and then UK BC 1 time as well. And yeah, that's me.
So I guess weirdly hosting this and then talking about myself sounds really arrogant, so I really hope that doesn't come across that way. I've competed 3 times. I've done okay, not the worst, not the best. I've had a lot of joy in supporting other people in either small ways or in big ways. And I really enjoy talking to people about what their goals are for competitions. So some people compete because they want to win. Some people compete because they really like the idea of competition. They might be quite competitive in life and in sports or whatever. So generally, one of the things that we want as a takeaway from here, obviously there's the live stream. We're trying to give as much information across the microphones, but when these microphones go down, anyone with stickers, I've got stickers on my jacket like a terrible person, come and talk to someone who's got a sticker on that's got something on it that you're interested in. So if you are interested in judging, there are people who have judged here. If you're interested in volunteering, there's people from the SCA here to talk to you about how valuable that can be. So my next question is probably my favourite question. I want you to talk about the best sort of ideas and maybe the high points of whether it's competition, whether it's coaching, whether it's judging, whether it's the community, and some of the worst things, so like bad ideas that you might have had. I've had some pretty terrible ideas. In fact, I will give you some of my bad ideas for a leveller. Pretty much everyone who's attempted to do UKBC has tried to make a signature drink. If you're not familiar with the UK Bristol Championships, it's espresso, milk, and a signature beverage which should taste kind of like coffee but with some other stuff in it. And the other stuff in it bit can go really horribly wrong when you get an idea in your head like, oh, maybe I can borrow from that industry. And I apologise to anyone who's watched this on the live feed. It's the same story, but it's just so gross. I need to share it so no one else does it. If anyone's a vegan in here or veggie and is looking at an egg white replacement in like cocktails, I don't know if you've done this in your delicious bar. People use the water that's in chickpeas, so it's called aquafaba, and you can blend it. It makes great meringues, and you can add it in place of an egg white in a cocktail. I don't know what you're supposed to do to make that not taste like hummus, but my coffee hummus drink was very, very gross. So do not recommend that. And then I was playing around with the idea of a smoky whiskey flavour for an Irish coffee. And I made a Lapsang Souchong syrup, which is, if you've not had Lapsang tea, it's quite a smoky, kind of, I hate the word earthy, but it's that kind of vibe. And it just tasted like an ashtray. It was like licking an ashtray. And I couldn't taste anything for about an hour that wasn't just basically cigarettes. So terrible, terrible idea. In terms of good ideas, I think my claim to fame is, if anyone followed the UKBC last year, a friend of mine, Will, who came second, had a device, shall we say, that he poured his signature drink through, and it split into 4 different things. We called it the splitter. We spent ages thinking of what to call it. And I had that idea from a terrible targeted ad on Instagram of someone pouring the most gross, like, champagne thing into all these little flutes. And because my brain is that way wired, I was like, you could do a signature drink like that. Sent it to Will. This was about 3 weeks from semi-finals. He bought it immediately from some Etsy store in, like, I think it was in Lithuania. And this guy's like, why is this weird guy buying this from the UK? He messaged me and was like, dude, it works. I'm going to use it on stage. I was, like, super anxious. Like, I've just ruined this guy's routine. It's going to go wrong. And I would recommend anyone who's interested in barista to find the live stream from semi-finals and finals. And you can hear it because I watched it back. There is an audible gasp when he uses it from every competitor that's done it before that has never seen someone use one, because it's one of the most frustrating parts of creating a signature drink. But that's probably my weird, happiest moment, apart from advising a few people who then went on to compete and do really well. A friend of mine started her coffee journey as a head barista, went into kind of cafe management, and then jumped into competing, and is now part of Manchester Coffee Festival, went through Youth Academy, has become a really close friend of mine, and her journey kind of started from just going, I'm going to just have a go. And she did the Bristol heat, in fact, a couple of years ago. and you should all do the Bristol heat for UKBC when there is one. I woke up late and live streamed it like half asleep, one eye open, and was like shaking at how happy and excited I was, so she crushed it. So generally happy for other people more so than myself. What are your happy and bad? It seems to be the fun bit is to talk about the bad bits, so I am making sure we talk about the good bits too.
Worst idea was also a signature drink.
That will be a theme, I think.
Yeah, first time I ever competed so I did like self-funded, didn't have access to like a roastery and a coffee shop quite so easily. And when it came to making my signature drink, I had some apparently bright idea. Decided to make all of the ingredients in separate places at separate times, taste them on their own. And one of them was like a pink peppercorn infused cream, and which on it when it's first infused is lovely. When you don't strain the peppercorns out and leave it for like 3 days, it's not good. So I'd never actually tasted the final sig drink, but had tasted the individual components. And when I served it, I saw two of the judges look at each other and go, which they're not supposed to do, but it was that bad that they felt they had to share a moment. It was pretty disgusting. Yeah, I tasted it afterwards. I was like, that is gross. I can't believe I served it. Didn't score very well. Didn't do very well that year, incidentally. Not necessarily the best idea I've had, but the best, probably the best moment was almost definitely with our mate Dan Fellows winning the Worlds for the second World Coffee and Good Spirits second time. So it was in Berlin. You in Berlin? Yeah. Yeah, we were in Berlin coaching, and he won for the second time in a row, which was pretty mega. So it was pretty good fun. I think I enjoy coaching more than I enjoy competing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be about competing. It can be in all different spheres. But I'm going to assume that we're, like, past the watershed. When I saw that with where I was like, fuck.
The splitter is real.
What
mate.
is that?
So I don't know if you were aware of this. This has now gone on, that went on to Worlds.
Yeah.
So Claire, who is the UK Bristol champion for this year, who finished third in the world, took the very same splitter. So I feel like this is a good splitter. This has got some good energy. That then went to Switzerland, and a barista competitor in Switzerland used it. And now I believe Paul's taken it to Italy or France or somewhere.
Yeah, he has. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I've been judging about 5-6 years. I've been around competition for like 20 years. So that when you see something like that, you're like, because it's so rare, because you get used to seeing very much the same thing over and over again. So when you see something that is truly, even a small thing, groundbreaking, it really does kind of break your brain a second. You're like, what the fuck is that? Worst thing, a garlic sig drink. Yeah, it was no bueno. It was not good. Worst thing I've ever been served and drank was a 240-hour anaerobic honey that literally made me ill. After judging, I was like, "Oh, this is not good." It was like literally, it was like licking bin juice. It was not good. Best thing ever was Super Sunday in Glasgow. Back when I was running it, and we did a full UKBC heat, which was 14 competitors, and the UK Brewers Cup final on the same day, on the same stage concurrently, and finished perfectly on time. And I was very happy with that.
That's a feat to, like, I don't think there's many that go on time with half that amount of competitors.
Mate, that was 20 people, 2 competitions.
Did
In
I
Glasgow,
hear on a
it was-
podcast
it was
recently,
banging.
That someone brought a live not orchestra.
Yeah, that happened in Austria. Was it a string quartet or a trio?
No, solo violin.
It was solo violinist with it. Oh yeah, I
Which
forget.
is the coolest thing I've heard of in ages.
It's like you can bring your own music. Yeah, I have live music. Okay, great. Can I plug it in? No, that's extra electrical devices. You can't plug it in.
Yeah, if anybody does that in the UK, they have my blessing, and probably everyone on this panel will give you the nod. That's badass.
So my experience really is from the work I've been doing backstage, particularly volunteering, because it's an amazing space to be at. These are people who have spent a lot of time, a lot of energy to create this. And they turn up really nervous and really anxious. And being that supportive person behind stage who is calm and able to take some of that stresses from them, it's really, really rewarding. The friendships that I've been able to build from that, the amount of hugs I've given and received, it's really lovely camaraderie that happens between competitors and us as volunteers and SCA, and it's so rewarding in so many ways. One of the best things, obviously, is when you get competitors going like Dan and other competitors go, Camilla, test this, try that. I mean, it's been the most incredible flavor experiences that I would have never had as a customer in a cafe. So being able to have that experience behind stage is the best bit. The worst bit for me is actually my nerves. And the reason I prefer to be backstage, because I see you guys backstage. I see how much it means to you. I see how much time you put in. And see that nerves on stage makes me nervous. And when things don't go to plan, I crash inside. Like, I can't watch it. So most of the times, I don't see your performances. However, the best bit for me is really to be there for you behind stage.
I think there's my favourite moment of you, Cam, is the photo of when Sierra and Claire won in the UKs. And there's just sheer joy from you sort of celebrating with them. And that was
and tears.
Well, it was mega, because, if you think of I talk about UKBC a lot, like athletics, which is a really strange parallel. But when you get to the finals of any event, so if you think of like the 100-meter sprint, everyone who's on that starting line is insanely good. And one person might slip, one person might not quite get out the blocks quite right, one person might have slept badly. Something just doesn't happen for someone, which means they don't win. And someone somehow is going to win, and they might not be better than the other person. I think anyone, personally, I always look at the top 6 and go, any one of those people could win it. Whenever you get into that sort of mixing sort of pot, and there's that kind of magic energy, I guess. But this year, I believe, was the first time we had 2 women win BCs and Brewers sort of side by side, and 2 extremely deserving, like incredible people as well as coffee competitors.
Yeah.
We were really lucky in Manchester and London in London, Sierra flew over from Switzerland to be part of our panel and talk about her experience, which we're really grateful. You can still on the
on live streams on YouTube, SCA UK YouTube.
Brilliant. So there's so much value in hearing how Claire and Sierra and Rusa kind of took what they learned at UKs and went to nationals. But for me, they've been like role models for me, and then I know a lot of my non-white male friends, there's a lot of us in coffee, unfortunately. I'm sorry for the least diverse panel in the world. We are very aware of that.
But it will be changed. I have singled out a lot of women here this evening.
This time,
You know who
2023,
you are.
you're up on here. I don't want any of these faces. You're all lovely people, but we want new faces next year.
But it was so glorious when that winning came through, and the fact that we had 1 and then we had 2, it was just amazing to see really strong women take those 2 top slots. I remember I was announcing for Brewers, and I didn't know the winner, and I didn't want to know, and I remember saying, like, don't show me. And I just couldn't believe it. I wanted it to happen, but I just couldn't believe it. And there's a few tears and gasps, but amazing moments. And we want to recreate that at some point in the future again.
Absolutely. Josh?
For bad ideas, I think I've been disqualified like half of the competitions I've done. Like, roughly? Yeah, you've disqualified me. Yeah, so like a lot of them, but they're just like really poorly decided, I'll just try this. And so when I went to Worlds, changing my speech right before I went on was probably a really bad idea. Be prepared, because you can wing it, but you'll have to do it a lot to get some results.
I may have mentioned you at every one of these events so far as the most infuriating competitor I've ever worked against, because Josh would be like backstage just going, has anyone got a scale? Like, can I borrow a scale? Then stand on stage and do a routine that I would have to practice 6 months to do anywhere as good, and know the content as well as you exude. So I've
Yeah,
always
but
been
you'll
very
like
jealous of
get
that.
disqualified so many times. like it's like a law of averages. Like do it a lot and you'll do well. Like eventually. So yeah, don't do that. Good things. I mean, the company I have that does Coffee Leaf, that completely was competition. That started as we were working with a producer and having just sort of an idea, being able to leverage competition coffee as a thing that like, hey, we're gonna buy your nice coffee. Can we also buy these stupid ideas that we have? It's kind of a really nice way to force yourself to innovate, because you look at what massively talented people have done in the past and you're like, shit, I gotta do something good. So Coffee Leaf was like really a big thing for me.
Can you elaborate on that if anyone isn't aware of that? Because I remember seeing that. I hadn't seen Coffee Leaf in person until I watched you brew it on stage, whenever that was. That was 2017?
18?
18?
17, 18, somewhere around there. Yeah.
There. But if you don't know, I think it's worthwhile explaining that.
Yeah.
It's
So
interesting.
basically, just in the competition, SIG drinks, they can be super boring, or they can be like a really cool chance for you to be creative. I think a lot of competitors get a little bit annoyed with SIG drinks because they're like the point of this giant unknown. But if you kind of embrace it, it lets you do cool stuff. And so Coffee Leaf was this idea that I just wanted to use more of the plant. I used to be a green buyer, so I spent a lot of time in coffee producing regions. And I got kind of obsessed with how they want to buy property in that region, there's no like mathematical way they can buy more land based off how much coffee prices are. Like, you know this. You'll be like, you want to buy some near a town in Kenya, and it's like, yeah, a producer can't afford more land. And so it was this idea on how do we make farms more profitable by just what's there, because they also can't afford infrastructure. And so I just read that Coffee Leaf, that it was attempted to become a thing a bunch of times and has been drunk fairly like in Ethiopia and Jamaica and Indonesia. And so we just kind of experimented with it to make it into a product that a producer can sell, because usually they prune the trees and the leaves just end up on the ground. And so this way it turns into a revenue source. So for us, we can double their income. But yeah, it was purely competition. Like, just wouldn't have happened unless I was like, fuck, I need a drink. And like, people have had better ideas. Leaves. And like, it was just like.
If you haven't tried Headstand, no, not product placement. It's
Thanks, man.
delicious. And I imagine it's very good with a bit of booze in as well.
Yeah. Booze or non-booze, yeah, either way.
Both ways. Very delicious.
But I do think the coaching thing is a big one. If you kind of don't view just the life cycle of a competitor as like, I compete and then I end, it's like, it's incredibly nourishing, the other stuff. I think a lot of people get jaded in coffee at some points. If you get jaded, just go help someone, and it just like makes you feel way fucking better. And so it's like a really shortcut way to make yourself feel good, is like actually spending time with people and watching them succeed and helping them succeed. So yeah.
In regards to bad experiences?
I like how we all go straight to bad.
Yeah.
They're all fresh.
End on a
Super
high.
fresh.
Bad experiences. When I was very new to competing, I very much overthought things a lot. And I'm a very introverted person, or I was originally. And then coffee and teaching every day really opens up your confidence and stuff like that. But when I was doing UKBC 2018 in Kelowna, I think it was, so 4 years ago, I drastically over-prepared in all the wrong ways and left my speech until the night before, really. I knew it off by heart by the end of the night, but at this time it was about 1:30 in the morning, and the competition was at about 9 a.m. the next day. So
Don't do that. That's not a good idea.
Do not do that. So I was massively overtired. I just had my first kid at the time as well. So it was just crazy. Probably the wrong time to be competing as well. I think you have to really think, can I balance my life out with really preparing for a competition? Because it takes so much time. But yeah, started my heats, started perfectly. The coffee was tasting incredible. It was a natural gauge from the Hartman family, which was amazing. Tasted of bananas, which was great. Yeah, started off great, and then suddenly I forgot everything, and my mind went completely blank. I didn't even know how to speak. And
I've seen multiple people do this.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
And my judge was Claire Wallace, who just came third in the world
Yes.
for barista. So I kept looking at her, knowing that she was brilliant, and then I was like, "Fuck, what can I do in a situation?" And I paused for about 40 not minutes.
Felt like 40
Felt
minutes.
like it, yeah. Yeah,
Feel
40
that.
seconds or so. So I was dramatically behind, but because it was a heat, you had 7 minutes instead. I ended up gathering myself together, finished on 7 minutes 15, I think it was. So I lost 15 points, but then still came second in the heat, which was insane just because the coffee was so brilliant. Got DQ'd because of other things that happened, but yeah, speaking of DQ.
Here he is. How many do you should have like a DQ gunslinging.
Watches.
Or like Oprah. I was going to say Oprah. And you
You
get a
get a
disqualification.
DQ. You get a DQ. No, I do not. No.
No, this has actually been covered separately. Like, the judges are there. They want you to do well. They do not want to DQ people. And I think it might have even been from your chat with Will. You're going to disappoint more people than you're going to make happy.
We know that when we go into this, we're going to disappoint everyone but one person. One person's going to go away happy. Everyone else is going to be shit disappointed. And that is a lot to carry. It's a lot to do as a judge to go, well, fuck, everyone's going to be annoyed at us.
It's important to remember that if you compete and you want feedback from a judge, if you go in super hot-headed, like, I'm really mad about this, you remember that person is a normal person giving up their time.
Yeah.
It's not really like a good energy to do it. You can go it professionally. I've, discussed my score sheet with a judge before. Because, and this is really lame, it was like, attention to detail, didn't refill water. I refilled the water. I know I did. And I was like, watch the stream. Watch the live stream. I did it.
Did you refill all the water?
100%.
Are you sure?
Sure, I'm sure.
We can go check.
We should. It was Manchester Heat. And it went to head judge and it was changed. And I still finished the same place, so it was completely pointless.
Sorry, that's Darth Vader coming to DQ you. Sorry, what?
Yeah, it was. And on your note of finishing 15 seconds over, the first time I competed, 54 seconds over, 6 seconds from being disqualified. With a similar setup to here, and I did okay, judges, and I really thank you for your time, and I just want to share everything about today. And there were so many faces. At the time, I had no idea why they were looking at me so funny, being like, finish. I thought I'd gone like 5 seconds over. That 15 seconds probably felt like you went over like 1 second.
God. It was ridiculous. Like,
and you're like, how has it just gone 15 more seconds?
I was thinking about everything apart from what I was meant to say.
Yep.
I just could not do it. But yeah, in regards to a positive thing, going from the person I was being not being able to speak in front of a couple of people to do this right now, which is pretty insane in the span of 4 or 5 years. That's my positive, just to see growth.
100%.
Like, and
we've talked about this at a few of the events that a few people say, why should I do it? Or I'm not ready to do it. If you compete, and this year we reckon there's 70 places, 70 places available. If you finish 65th, but you are better at organising yourself, hopefully, you're better at brewing espresso, you are a cleaner technician in terms of you're a head barista, and you're going back to your cafe and you can maybe enunciate how you do something better to somebody, it is worth the time that you put in. I do truly believe, as Cam said before, I've met loads of people. I think I've met everybody sat here through either work or competition or through coffee. And there's a bunch of people that I've met over the last 3 of these events that I solely have met through competition that have become good friends. And yeah, same. I spent the weekend with my mum, and she proceeded to tell my wife how much I used to hide behind her when I was a child, and I was scared of everything. And now I'm, doing the same, holding microphones. Strange. Is there anything that anyone wants to share very specifically, something that you feel really passionately about the competition culture? Because one thing I think is really important is we're not telling everyone in this room to get a ticket and compete. That might not be for you, but you might want to help somebody who wants to compete. If you're in a cafe, you've got multiple baristas, somebody wants to compete, you might be able to support them in some way, whether it's your time, whether it's your emotional support. Coaching's a strange one. I think going to people who have competed before and who are able to offer coaching is a really useful thing. Try not to get coaching from someone who doesn't necessarily understand what the competition format is. It's helpful, but I think you can use them as a stepping stone. But if there's anything anyone feels very passionately about that they would like to share with everyone, that's something that is a benefit for being involved in the competition in general. And then we're going to go from there, opening it up into Q&A. So please all be thinking of excellent questions. Matt, I have faith.
Yes, please think of questions. It's not just about the competing. There's a network of people who are already here in this room for one night who you probably would never met and will, in the long run, form opportunities or, I don't know, just a goodwill between people because they've been involved in the same event. They don't run without people like you and like us. Without this, no one gets paid to do this. It's all volunteer labor. Now, that's the flip side of that is you have to be careful with that labor. You take a lot of emotional profit out of it. You can get into emotional debit from it. But they don't run without us. They run for us, by us, and this is a wonderful thing in the long run to be involved in. I took a couple of years out, I had to, but I came back, and now I do it in a different way. If it's definitely worth being involved in. It's just, you can only benefit from it, really, in the long run, I think.
I think an interesting conversation I had earlier about competing not in the UK as well is really interesting. If you are not from the UK and you want to compete somewhere within Europe or where you are based and the competition circuit isn't as big there, the UK circuit I think is really, really good. If you can compete at this level, you can get involved in this level, you can potentially help drive the community in wherever you want to be based.
Yeah, we're blessed. This is huge. The UK scene is huge. I've judged in like 6 countries in Europe this year and maybe 8 over the past couple of years. There probably isn't one I can think of that has as many competitors and the quality that we have. Maybe Italy, maybe. Russia, perhaps, but they're a bit silly. In terms of scale, like they'll have 300 people entering. It's just absolutely bonkers. There isn't one in Europe I can think of that has the quality and the depth of talent that we have here. Yeah.
I'm hoping there seems to be a lot of nice, relaxed faces over there, ready for a Q&A. I primed a few people before this to at least think of one question, so there's not 3 hours of silence. Does anyone have any wonderful questions? You can either stick your hand up, you can shout aggressively, we can do it however you would like. Has anyone got any questions about culture, competition, SCA, volunteering, coffee leaf, training, green buying, cocktails, judging, roasting? Yes, thank you, that person. I kind of want to, can we?
Man in the beanie hat in the corner.
We're going to give you a microphone, I apologise. There's a microphone's happening.
Yes, this one here.
It does.
Innovation's a huge part of these competitions and what we see come out of it. How quickly does like a super innovative idea like the splitter become quite passé and not exciting when you see it? Is it taking other people's ideas and not putting a fresh spin on it? Does that? Yeah, I feel like this question was so open-ended. It's kind of.
No, I love it. I love it.
Really quick thing on the judging side. Literally the next season, like the minute we see something, we'll guarantee that we'll see that many, many times in the next competition season. And the weird thing is, the competition season never ends. We're already doing 2023. I started 2023 in October. It's already started, so it's a super fast turnaround.
Well, we were talking about that just before. One of the finalists in the Worlds this year said they used an enzyme to separate things in their milk and super complicated things. And we were talking about that somebody did that in a competition you judged very recently. Yeah. So within months, if in the UKBC this year, 50% of the competitors use a splitter, I'll just laugh. It'll be hilarious. Freeze distilled milk became popular from Ben Putt, from Canadian Bristol champion. He's innovated quite a lot of things for competition, and then it's become relatively normal. At this year's Worlds, there was cryo distillation, and if anybody manages to redo that, I'll be impressed, because I looked into what goes into that, and it's mad and really expensive. But yeah, I do think there's a drip-down effect that's quite quick, and it tends to be from certain people or companies that are very invested in whatever the next thing is. And it's not always a bad thing. It's usually a good thing.
Yeah, just real quick on innovation. You can not innovate at all and do really well. Like there's been a lot of world winners who haven't innovated at all. So like the innovation thing, there's a lot of pressure to like completely reinvent the thing. And then that usually becomes this, I don't have a good idea, so that's why I won't do it. But like literally most people don't, like that's how the nature of innovation. I would recommend that like copy first, learn how to do it, and then worry about innovate, because you can only innovate when you're quite familiar with the whole thing. So I know there's like, especially nowadays with like, I mean, whatever you just said, I'm not up on cryo, whatever.
Yeah, wild.
And that like it's heading into a really crazy place. But I imagine a lot of national winners, a lot of top threes, a lot of whatever will just not be innovating. And it's actually about, can you perfect the form? Can you make the form as it is as good as it is? Because a lot of innovation is actually like only kind of there, and so you've got to take it to its place where it's like amazing. And so there can be a lot of pressure to reinvent the wheel when you just make the wheel like, and like that'll do a lot.
Josh, I remember when you did Brewers. I can't remember when you did it, and I want to say Finca Neguo. It might have been something else. Jose Gallardo. No, it's the same farm. I remember you standing in front of the judges and talking, and not really just talking about being in the garden and like Hartman. Okay, yeah. So, and I remember just being like transfixed. I was like, Josh hasn't done anything. He's like stood in front of the judges. He's like, I want to drink this coffee, because I feel you're a very good storyteller. It's very easy to imagine how amazing something would be. And then you brewed the coffees, and I don't remember anything particularly innovative about how you brewed the coffees, but I was very, what's the word? I remember watching and thinking, this is fantastic, and a very good example of how to do Brewers Cup. And
All right.
it
I'll come back to that. The perfect example, I think, of this is, do people know who Matt Perger is? So do you know of Matt Perger and his association with the AK-43? So like he put that grinder out there as something to use for something more than grinding spices, which is what it was designed for. Where do you think he finished in the World Championships that year? The year he did that, he didn't win. He took the innovation. It's what people remember from that World Championships. Matt Perger, AK-43, he didn't win. The guy who did the thing well won. It's a perfect example. Pete Licata. He won that year. Matt didn't. It's like innovation doesn't necessarily win you things. It just can help push little boundaries. But DQ, no one likes doing it. I hate doing it. Somehow he managed to brew over 2%. That was the year, wasn't it? Innovation. Innovation of like, I wonder what's the rule on what a filter coffee is. It's 2% TDS. Okay, how close can I get to it? Not over 2%, Josh, because that's a DQ.
I also think my claim to fame may have been, I'm pretty sure I was the first person to brew frozen coffee on stage.
Ooh,
Didn't win, but that is now more common in a lot of cool cafes now. They will have a reserve menu, or they will have frozen down coffees. If anyone wants to talk about frozen coffee, I did learn a relatively large amount about that. Come talk to me about that. But that was definitely a good example of innovation, but definitely didn't practice and didn't do it well enough.
So what I'd like to add, really, and it's one of the exercises that we are doing afterwards, is actually understanding the score sheet and understanding where can I accelerate my points. It's not through incredible innovation. It comes through the taste. I mean, you will see, and we'll talk through it. Matt will be doing a bit of a sensory experience and really understanding what the judges are looking for, and do the basic, do the routine really well, and then start experimenting. So understanding the score sheet is key, and we're here to help you with that today.
Is there any other questions? I'm hoping we can. Yeah, questions over here. Oh, sorry. But not sorry. We want your question too.
Hi guys.
Hi.
I came here really curious about the kind of competition side of it and volunteering as well. Now I'm really curious, how do you get into judging? Like, are there certain credentials you need, or how does that work?
You don't have to do anything but the ability to listen to somebody, write things down, and taste coffee. That's it. Everything else you will learn. Like, there is a judge's course, there are calibration sessions. The traditional path is that you will spend some time what we call shadow judging. So you'll get used to listening to somebody, disseminating the important information and getting that down on the score sheet. That's the real skill. The tasting is a calibration exercise. So that takes time. So generally you do some shadow judging, and then you do some tasting alongside that, and then you do some regionals or some heats, and then you progress to finals, and then you progress through that way. So yeah, you don't have to have any credentials whatsoever, just the will to do it.
And technical judging is if you are working in a cafe and you are a functioning barista, or you've made coffee before. I think tech judging is a really good way to get started.
Yeah, definitely, because it's just counting stuff. Yeah. And everyone can count stuff.
And I quite like the hard and fast of that. Did you do that thing? Did you clean the steam arm? And if you go, you didn't clean the steam arm, it's quite hard to argue with someone.
Did you refill water? Yeah.
I think, so I do a lot of training for Blossom and our wholesale partners. I use some of the technical score sheet. I don't tell people it's the technical score sheet, but I do use that as a bit of a framework for just do's and don'ts. Top tip, and I really hope no cafes, or baristas in here do it, you don't put liquid on top of an espresso machine. Your cafe owner has probably spent £5,000 to £20,000 on that espresso machine, which is more than a deposit on some houses. And I go in and see people putting like milk pitchers or hot chocolate on the top. One of those spills, machine goes, not very good. If you put liquid on the top of the espresso machine in the UK Barista Championships, you will be
disqualified.
Famous Matt North DQ. And have you DQ'd anyone for doing that?
Yeah.
Not too many people, I imagine? More than one is bad.
Where are you buying a house at 5k for a deposit?
My first house was around that.
It's not down
Come
here,
up
mate.
to
I'm
the
telling
north,
you.
everybody. It's great.
Does that answer your question? Excellent.
Aside from that, from volunteering, if you can speak to Gratz or Cam, I volunteered at the last Manchester Heats, and it was really good fun. I classed myself as official cheerleader of the backstage room, as Cam was saying, just patting everyone on the back. I was supposed to be timekeeping. Someone else started timekeeping because I wasn't paying attention. No, there was somebody else actually timekeeping. They were really good at that. But you can't give advice. You can't taste anything and talk to people, but you can be like, you're all good. It's fine. You know how to go and make frothy coffees, which is what I was saying to everyone. We're going to go froth up some milk and talk to judges. We all know how to do that. I think bringing someone down to earth when you can tell some people are quite nervous, having a friendly face in the room or a nice energy or just being a bit silly just helps bring the room down to earth. It can be quite weirdly tense backstage, and that's not good. I think we have a question over here. Gratz? I'm going to make Gratz do the run, I'm sorry. Another beanie.
What is something that you know now that you wish you knew when you started judging, competing?
Great question. That it's okay to want to win. It's okay. I think if you publicly say I don't want to win, people judge you a little bit. Like, why don't you want? Why are you doing? Why don't you want to win? It's not arrogant to say you want to do well. And I probably didn't realise how much joy. I think I like the preparation side. The doing bit's not as fun. The 15 minutes or 7 minutes or however much time depending on how far you get in the competition, don't actually think is as fun. But the lead up to it, the kind of camaraderie, maybe the planning, the tasting the coffees, coming up with weird ideas. I enjoy that bit. I like ideas and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't really know I would enjoy that part of it as much as I did. And every time I've competed, I've said I will never do that again. And for a solid 6 minutes, believed that. And then, there's something weird. Like, this is my swan song. I'm going to compete next year, and that is it. I'm too old. It's too stressful. My back hurts. But if past that I want to do anything, it will be solely for fun or to help someone else.
There's only one person on the stage at a time, but it's definitely a team event, 100%. The best years, the best years that I ever competed, or the best year I competed, was 2018, so year Josh won, and in the finals, and Ollie was in the finals with us as well, in the finals, 5 out of 6 of us from Origin, and Ollie was up north, but 4 of us trained together, which I think is pretty much indicative of the team mentality. And there's definitely like an element of some people going, but you're competing against those people. But I think had we been all training individually, none of us would have done as well. Not even close. I definitely wouldn't have. So I think surrounding yourself with really good people, if you can surround yourself with good people who are competing, good people who have coached before, or people who have judged who can help you out, like just get loads of great minds on your routine, loads of ears listening, loads of people tasting your coffee, and you will do infinitely better than you will if you're doing it alone.
I think that kind of applies to the general team mentality of other things, right? Like, you probably, from that, we said about the weird big picture, Dan runs a successful bar and restaurant now, and will, I assume, collaborate more with the other people in his business, because you know that from a degree of collaboration, you're probably going to come up with a better thing, I hope. Unless he just lays the smack down, do it again!
I think just 2 of them is, from the actual pure competition side, just be careful where you're spending time. A lot of people will misallocate time into bits that do not generate points whatsoever, and they'll fixate on it, and it'll become their life, and it will literally not equal anything on the score sheet. And then when it doesn't pan out, it just becomes this giant drop because they've been oh, my customer service, or I said this thing or whatever. So it's worth just making sure what you're doing actually has a payout in the score sheet. And then as an extension of that, just be careful how you, winning's really hollow. You don't there's not much, you don't get anything out of it. It's nice, I got a nice prize actually. But most of the time, every other winner has not gotten a nice prize. But it is emotionally quite hollow if you have nothing connected to it. So if getting super in your head about competing, I think is just a really good way to be miserable. And so just make sure you build into it. I think that year, what made it so nice is a lot of people were together, and it was so communal that at the end of it, it felt just so nice to get to know people really well. The firing back of ideas, going through something with people, the shared experience was really great. So just if you're in it and you're a competitive person, just kind of make sure it isn't just about the competition, because competitiveness can really destroy your enjoyment of the thing.
Going on from that and what Ollie said earlier, in regards to knowing what you wish you knew before you started competing, was in regards to what Ollie was saying, the enjoyment of prepping. I'm the complete opposite. I hate it. I can't stand it, because it's weeks and weeks of prep, isn't it? Yeah. And just the amount of time that goes into it is quite ridiculous sometimes if you overthink a certain thing that you're fixated on as well. But the biggest thing for me, prepping for competitions, is prepping your prep time, which a lot of people they barely even think about it, or they overthink it. Where they're on stage, you've got a certain allotted amount of time to prep your stage. A lot of people might not even think about it, and then they'll get to that point, and then they'll panic, and they might forget things, or the layout of everything might be, not correct, or the way the workflow is kind of off. So going from what you were saying about getting points for the most important things, you can't do that unless your prep time is well prepared as well. But yeah, just make sure in your entire competition prep time, prep your prep time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like coming off what Josh said, I think there's a lot of like romanticisation around the competition. And I don't know if anyone here's ever watched routines. How many times have you watched a routine and the person you thought had the best routine didn't win? Or someone might have stumbled or done whatever, and then they do exceptionally well on the score sheet. And there's a lot of romanticisation around your theme and your concept, and saying something interesting or innovative. And really, it's like a game. Like you just score points. And the better you understand the score sheet, and the more times you read the rules, so you don't get disqualified or lose points unnecessarily, like you'll just do infinitely better much faster, because you just have a deeper understanding of what the expectations are. Like talk to judges, it's great practicing with other competitors, but if you've got someone who's judging you 5-6 nights a week for a few months and they are a judge, they won't judge you on the day, but they're going to add quite a lot of insight. And it's all about matching up what you're doing with what the expectations are of the competition itself, and knowing what you're really aiming for.
Sorry for keep going. Just one last thing. Message people, because like literally everyone will respond to emails. Like it's like just random mess. Like I do this all the time. Like I'll like email a random CEO for advice on something, and they'll be like, yeah, sure. Just like anyone you can think of, they're like, oh, that'd be interesting. Just message them. Just message them. And not all of us are just like sitting at home on TikTok or something. So like if we're not doing anything, so just like send us a message and we'll probably respond to it. Especially if you're like super clear on what you're asking about, and you're not just like, coach me, and it's like super general. Like if you're just like, hey, what do you think of this? Usually you'll get a response out of people. So like just do it. Just like do it. And the earlier you do it, the more you'll get out of it, and like the more you kind of engage with people.
Two very quick things just to follow up on what I just said before, just to touch on what has kind of collectively been said. The practice your practice time thing was something I was taught when I first started, and that is practice the time you have to dial in, and put yourself under those circumstances. You have different time allowances at the heats to you do in the semi-finals and finals, because you have to think about what it's going to be like when you get to finals, because you will crush it, you will do well. I'm hopefully only speak for myself, but I used to look at my phone and be like, I've got 15 photos of my trolley and what my trolley's supposed to look like, and then what my table settings are supposed to look like. And I'm like, I never looked at them on the day, but I think I'd done it so many times that I was like, I know exactly what this is supposed to be. Having like spares for your spares for your spares, and having kit for backstage and then kit for stage. All of those things, if you speak to someone who's competed, I saw a few nods there, like we've all done those weird things, and if you've not done it before, you wouldn't think, oh, I need a cloth when I'm doing my milk backstage, then I'll need a fresh one, so I start my routine with a perfect cloth. So yeah, it's little things like that.
Yeah. Really just want to add, it's particularly for you guys who may not have the network, you may not know other judges, or you may not know other competitors, and you feel like it's a bit daunting, who do I ask? As a community coordinator for SCA UK, I'm here to help you link up with the people who can help you. So unless you reach out, I can't help you, but I want you to. So if there's any challenges that you may have, or thinking that, oh, I don't know how to get a hold of this piece of kit, I want to get a hold of that person, or I might not be able to afford to get this and that, reach out. We want to have you on this journey with us, and there will be people out there wanting to support you. One of the things that you will find, and I like to stress this, because I hear it time and time again, people saying, well, your community is so cliquey, and it's very hard to get into, and everybody talking to each other, and I don't know how to get into it. The reason we're talking to each other because we know each other, But what I do know, and I do want to stress this, is that we want to know more people. And during this tour, we have seen so many new faces, Ollie.
Yeah, like London, for context, 70 people, I think. I categorically knew about 6 that were people that wanted to be there to support the event. And most people were exactly the audience we wanted to come to the event. There's a lot of faces here that I don't know from being up north, but that are like, I'm interested in doing something, and that's why I'm here. And these events are meant to be, we're all relatively nice people. There's a few people that are less open about their advice and stuff, but generally speaking, if you're rocking up to an event like this, or you're reposting things on social media, you're probably open to, as Josh said, an email. And if you can be like, I just need help. And if I get emails and messages sometimes, I'm like, I can't help you with that, but I know exactly who can. And I may ship you off somewhere else, but it's probably in the best interest of what you need. So, and I think that's, speaking for Cam, I know you have a very good network across the country, because the SCA covers the country. And so if you're based in London or you're based in Scotland, we will know somebody who, if we're the conduit of the further conversation, if that makes sense.
I can find the person who will be able to answer your questions
Absolutely.
and direct you. But unless that is directed to us, we can't help you. So any of those challenges that you may have, you can reach us easily via Instagram and in an email, and I will post details how to reach us as well on social media.
Anybody got any big boy questions for the feed? Ooh. The biggest boy in the room's gone in. Scared.
Big boy question?
I'm scared.
It's a basic one.
Okay.
It's very basic, and I think a lot of competitors don't do it. My first time doing UKBC, I did not do it. But can you explain the importance of reading the rules, to begin with?
Yeah.
And understanding the score sheet as well, because first time I did UKPC, I went up to Graz, and I was like, oh, what's the rule on this? And you went, go back and read rule 6.3. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went back.
Yeah.
But just understanding the rules and how much further that can get you.
So I'm going to give you a very quick competitor answer, and then Matt will give you a much better, more concise answer. My advice to anyone who's first time or has done it once or twice and maybe hasn't had the results they want, print the score sheet, which... or the judging sensory score sheet, which Matt has some copies of, and write in your coffee information on it. Like, look at what all the information the judges are actually asking for, write all that in first, then go back to the speech that you've written down and highlight all the things that you actually have to say, and you'll probably have highlighted 2% of what you've written down, and maybe gone, actually, there's stuff I haven't put in. So fundamentally, Dan touched on this as well, you have to give the judges a certain degree of information. It stresses me out when I watch someone do a really good routine and they don't give tactile qualities to their coffee, because it's a huge multiplier and it's on the score sheet. From a technical point of view, the rules are there just to guide you what to do. But maybe do it at work where the paper's free, but print it out because there's a lot of them. Have the rules accessible, read them, highlight bits that you're like, I'm not sure, and base the routine from the framework of the rules. That's how I've started to build things.
Yes, it's a game about scoring points. And to do that, you need to know how to play the game. It's as simple as that. So that comes down to this idea that the innovative and the best looking routines don't necessarily win because they may not have scored the most points. Read the rules, then go away, think about them, come back and read them again because they will not make sense. Understand that the rules are deeply English, which means that context is important. We find that this being difficult if English isn't your first language. So words like must and should, imperative words are important, so understand that. And then compare that to your score sheet. And then your score sheet tells you where the points are scored, and then from that, you know what to focus on and what not to focus on. Note that I'm being quite careful about it. I cannot coach you as a judge, because if I tell you what to do, I can then not judge you. I can give you rules-based feedback, which is what's on the score sheets up there, basically. So yeah.
Well, maybe a question for you, Matt, then is, of things that are on the score sheet, what are the most infuriating things that you end up not giving people points or removing points for? We mentioned before about aprons.
Yeah, wearing an apron.
Like, it's in the rules that you have to wear an apron. I don't love wearing an apron.
Appropriate apparel, wear an apron.
Yeah, but it's in the rules to do that.
Use the right size cup.
Yeah, I nearly got DQ'd for that once, so don't do that. When you all make espresso in your cafes or in your roasteries, you maybe do a bit of distribution, you tamp, you wipe across the top if you're being really good, make sure there's no coffee around the lugs. You don't wipe the spouts in a cafe. It's the most irritating rule in there, but it's on the score sheet, and if you don't wipe those spouts...
Understand that there are definitions of what a drink is.
Oof.
Make sure you make the drink.
There's a top size for what the milk beverage can
Pour
be.
the right amount of drink in brewer's cup. Oh
Yeah.
my God, if I see another underfull cup, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
There are lots of...
Serve a drink. That was
Serve a drink.
That was a contentious thing that was discussed on a podcast recently.
Yes.
And there are, arguments to, like, how you call time. I remember watching a competitor go, okay, like, they finished. Like, I see the clock is going. And you have to call time. Like,
These things all appear in the rules, and it comes back to this point about the semantics of the rules, and the semantics here are important. So the service thing comes in all competitions because it delineates the service courses in, say, barista, and it shows when a drink is served in brewers. And in brewers, it's actively served, standard rule. So there has to be an action of service. If you don't actively serve, the drink is defined as not being served. So there is no drink served. So how do we score that? So that comes into this rule. So understand the rules, understand the semantics between the rules. It's not just you will get so many points for a certain thing. It's not grey areas, but there are points where if you understand how English as a language works, you understand how the rules truly work.
A couple of comments from me, sorry guys, on this, because I feel it's important and I wanted to touch on
wild
what...
Gratz appears.
I know, right? I've got to say something, I'm standing here. But it's what Matt said and what James said. While we are all here to help you and we want you to get involved, we want you to get to know you, like Camilla said. If you ask a direct question to any of us, like James did, all we can do is direct you to the rules. And not because we are bad people, and some of us perhaps are more direct than others, but it's because, as Matt touched, it's a game. It's a game of scoring points. It's a game where there will be one winner and a lot of disappointed people.
Truth.
Correct? Which means we are not in a position as an SCA committee to help you scoring points. So if you don't get an answer directly from us, not it's because we're bad people, it's because we, as committee, we have also to play the game. But we will, however, direct you to the right person or the right coach or competitor or past judge that can help you. But don't be surprised or taken aback and be put out by the fact that I would answer, read the rules, my friend.
So directly from that is I have in the past when I've wanted to do something that is grey, I've emailed. And it's been, they don't tell you what you can and can't do as such, but they do clarify wording. You can clarify wording. Yep. So sometimes, especially with like processing at the moment is the big one, like, the cinnamon coffees and stuff.
Yeah, what is legal and not legal in terms of processing in coffee, yeah.
Yeah, and there's been, and it's primary processing, and is it some of it allowed and some of it's not, and you can just clarify. And there's, I guess, some tweaks to the.
Yeah, they're a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
The rules are constantly changing in the interpretation of the rules, and as coffee moves faster than the rules, is a living, breathing thing. So yeah, it's constantly changing.
So make sure you read the up-to-date rules, not last year's rules as well.
This feels like a really good segue.
It does. So, I'm going to because Cam will do this so much better than I, because you've done it at lots of wonderful events. We have some sponsors to say thank you to for making this event possible. And once we've thanked those wonderful sponsors, Matt, it's actually your moment. You can scurry off if you want to run off, unless you wanted to do the partridge move of it. Okay. So once we have thanked the sponsors that have made tonight possible, Matt has his sensory experiment, which involves biscuits, which I am so stoked about biscuits happening as a coffee event. So yeah, as I will not do it as eloquently as Ken will.
Eloquent.
I'd like to also
eloquent.
just say thank you for all of our panel guests for being part of this evening. So thank you for giving up your time.
Like was mentioned before, all of us involved in competition, it's a volunteer role. None of us are paid to do this. However, this competition, this event, even tonight, would not be possible without our sponsors. And the sponsors we have today are for barista competitions. And we will be releasing tickets for the barista heats. And I think it will be next week, hopefully. Next week. We will be hosting heats in every country of the mainland UK. We will release more details of that later. However, who would like to go first?
Always Steve.
I would like to introduce Steve from Chimberley, UK. Give us a hand.
Hi, everyone. All right, as Camila was saying, Steve from Chimberley, working with the M200, which is over there, which is the competition machine. It's going to be the competition machine until 2 more years, yes. So next year and the following one. Very simple. The machine will be set up. You will be able to change 2 things. The temperature of the group, and the size, the height of the drip tray, all right? If you want to talk about it, I will be just behind over there.
Steve knows what he's doing. Steve, 5 scales. He has loads of scales. Ask him about his scales.
Yeah, I've got a lot of scales in my bag. Who knows? So any question about the machine, any question about anything related to the machine, if you want to try the machine, it's just there. All right, so feel free to come.
If you're thinking about competing, as Steve said, either this coming year or the following year, I found it really useful to, I know it sounds ridiculous, every portafilter feels a bit different. We were talking about how those portafilters are made a bit different, so they genuinely do feel a little bit different when you are knocking them into a knock box. And like, if you've never done that, and the first time you're doing that is in your prep time for your heat, it just might feel a little bit weird. If you've done that for 5 minutes while you're here, and you're like, oh, yeah, I've done that, that's not going to be weird on the day. If you steam milk on that steam arm and you know how it is in relation to your machine and your bar and your roastery, you don't have that unknown. And the drip tray heights are, it's a specific, I made sure for you to mention this because it is important if you are going to use scales, if you're going to use a scale stand. These are, where it sits is quite important, and it is a bit different to if you're working on other machines. So I would personally take that chance if you're going to do BCs, just have a quick look.
As I strongly encourage you to.
Yep.
It's a setup here behind the bar. Even though it's behind the bar, please go around it, speak to Steve, get familiar with it, and nothing to lose. So take this opportunity for sure.
I've also put some delicious coffee from Blossom in there, which is the coffee I plan to use at the heats. So if anyone wants to drink coffee at this hour, it's pretty yum. So have a little bash on that. And then we also have one of our other sponsors here, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Hello. My name's Liam. I'm representing Malconig. Incidentally, this very site is the first place I ever used a Malconig grinder. I had to have a crash course at the roastery to work out how to adjust the settings, and that was it was the original K30, so it had quite large steps. We moved on from that. But Malconig is definitely a brand that's been there and done that.
Nice.
Just finished. There we go. Nice. Just finished up a run last year with the World Bristol Championships, and then started up on the UK BCs again. Our company in the UK, Brew Group, have been involved through various companies since about 20 years ago on the UK BC side. The grinder we have today I've actually got the E80 grind by weight. You won't be allowed to use that in the competition. It'll just be the standard timed version of the E80. One thing that drew a bit of a gasp last week, the EK43 is not available to competitors this year, nor is the E65.
Big news, that.
Well,
I was one of the Gaspies.
Yeah.
Useful to know. That also puts you into the same for the Worlds. The Worlds is a it's a grind-on-demand grinder. So actually, you are preparing for Worlds. That's the way I see it now.
Yeah.
That was the theory.
That was the conversation with Malconic. At the Worlds, it's one grinder. So should we do that? The first year of competition was great to showcase that.
Yeah.
And Malconic will continue to showcase all their grinders, but not on the stage.
Just for anyone who didn't get it on the microphone on the live feed, that is just, to make it in line with the Worlds, having a grind-on-demand grinder versus a single-dose grinder, and Malconic will have other grinders for you to play with, but just not on stage.
And also, I suppose, as per WBC rules, we will, if requested, we can give you 2 grinders for your routine. If you want a 3rd grinder for your signature drink, then you'll have to bring your own, and I'd say just consult the rules on that one.
Nice.
I don't know how many you're allowed.
1 electrical item.
Well, there you
2
go.
electrical items. Read the rules, Oliver.
The other thing that people like about the EK43, Matt just taught me something tonight, that Matt Perger did not win the 2013 World Barista Championships, but he did bring a big deli grinder on, the EK43, which has become kind of ubiquitous in specialty coffee. But Malconic have been trying to replicate the results that you get from that. So if you really want to push the boat out, you can buy cast steel burrs now for the E80. They have been proven before to get higher extractions than the EK43. So there is the option to push out your extractions with that. Any questions on the grinder? If you've not used the grinder, come and have a play with it. Lots of people have used it, but any questions? Oh, there's a question already. No?
Just
Radio.
He's very late. He should read the rules of what time the events start. I'm gonna get him when he comes in. Thank you, Liam. Kratz, do you want to say anything about community stuff?
Right, this is awkward. As well as being part of the SCA committee, in my day job is working for Grumpy Mule. I do not deal direct with the sponsorship. Aaron, one of my colleagues, is. However, what we would say, in working in conjunction with Kovoya, which used to be known as Olam, as you can see up there on the right-hand side, we will, as Grumpy Mule and Kovoya, we will support anyone who is struggling to get coffee, training, support, any sorts of help in terms of coffee choice, and so on. I'm sure you all work for your roasters on cafe, etc. You got access to what you need. If any of you is stuck, then please come and see us. Contact again me at events, and I will direct you to Aaron, who deals with the sponsorship, and will help you out with your coffee and your training.
I tasted Aaron's milk drink in the Manchester Heats, and is one of the best milk drinks I've had on the UKBC stage. He got DQ'd.
By whom, I guess?
By the Phantom DQer. For a peculiar rule, but again, is in the rules. So, and he's a very good competitor, and even people get caught out by strange rules. So, yeah, it's not read the rules, basically.
This really is a good segue.
Yes. So, when you want to read the rules and understand the score sheet, I'm holding this like I'm at a gig. This is really weird. I realise this.
Yeah.
Sorry, too much metal over the years. If you would like to either your chair or stand and head over, it'd probably be better to come over.
It's going to be a stand event. Shall I just go and do it?
Yeah, Matt's going to have the most partridge moment of the event where he just
You're
stands
in
up
my
on the
world
microphone.
now.